Hello everyone and welcome back to another Stormworks Search and Destroy Weapons DLC video. Now in this video we're back with the A10 build series. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the series, and in this video we're going to be adding a whole bunch of new features. We're going to be adding on some custom stabilization systems. We're also going to be adding a full Navigational Autopilot waypoint system onto the plane too, and also a little bit of a custom altitude hold system. So this plane is going to be fully equipped with all the modern features that you would expect to find in a plane here in game. So that all said, let's jump straight in the workbench and let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a full stabilization system for this plane. Now you could get away by using a standard gyro that we have in game. They are quite big, so it's up to you if you want to use that. They also don't have the most settings to them. You can only configure them so much. I personally like to use tilt sensors instead, but it's up to you on how you want to do that. Now the purpose of the build, guys, we've always been building everything outside to show you how to do it yourself. Of course, if you don't want to, you can build it inside your cockpit or inside your fuselage or even outside. It's up to you. As I said, for the purpose of this video, we're just adding everything temporarily outside, and then we'll add more features in later on and move it around and detail and all those kind of things. First, we want to test to see if the stuff's going to work or not, and that's why I add everything on the outside and then I move it later. So first things first is we are going to build a stabilization system. Let's do one for the roll, and then if you guys know how to do one for roll, it's exactly the same for the pitch. So to do it, we're going to start by grabbing a tilt sensor. Now you can grab the tilt sensor and you can place it either left or you can place it right. It is up to you. I'm going to face it right because I know that is the direction that I'll need. We can also then grab a microcontroller, or you can just use regular logic. It's once again up to you on how you want to do this. I like to use microcontrollers because they're nice and compact. The next thing we're going to need is we're going to make the size of our microcontroller a little bit larger. So we're going to go about 2 by 2, and let's go and add a couple nodes. We're going to need something to turn this on and off. So on/off. We're going to need our input. Okay, that's going to come from our seat. This will be, of course, our roll in. We're also going to need our roll out. That's going to go to our control surfaces. And lastly, we're going to go and need our tilt sensor. So tilt facing right. Number, and that's going to be input. Obviously, you can reorganize that, go into the logic, and separate it out. Now, first things first. Normally, our roll comes in, and our roll is going to come out. However, when I press a button on my seat, let's imagine hotkey number 3, I think I have 3. Then I want the tilt sensor to go and control my roll. So one way you can get through and doing this is you can firstly add a switch box. Okay, and you could say, hey, listen, when the switch box is off, I want you to send my normal control right through it and then over to my control surfaces. But when I press this button, I want my tilt sensor to control my control surfaces. Now this is all fine. However, you won't have any user input once you have the stabilizer on, which is not exactly what you want. So instead of using a switch box, I personally like to use an add block and a switch box. So you take the add block, you take that straight through to your roll. That means you can always send your seat controls through. However, then you use a switch box and you say, hey, listen, if I turn the system on, then you can send that through. If the system's off, don't send anything. And what are you sending through? Your tilt sensor directly. Now, the tilt sensor will work and tell you how far you're tilting left or how far you're tilting right. And will give you the output from negative 0.25 to positive 0.25. Now, of course, control surfaces work in a negative 1 to 1 fashion. So how do we convert that into the negative 1 to 1? Well, we use the function block and we go and times it by 4. Okay, very simple. Now, if you want to increase how fast it reacts or decrease how much it reacts, you can either go and times it by 4. If you want it to be slower, by 2. If you want to be quicker, by 6. It's up to you. I personally like to have it by 4 for now. Once we've got that in, the last thing you need to do is update it and connect the logic. So we're going to go from 3 on our seat, which is going to be our roll stabilizer. So 3 on our seat, roll, stab. We're then going to go and connect our tilt, which is that one. We're going to then have our seat roll, which is A and D, coming into our pass through, and then out to my control surfaces. So 1 and 2. Okay, so you can see how it's going from my seat into our system. It can either get turned on and off using hotkey 3, and then it goes out to my 2 control surfaces, and it's reading the tilt facing right. Spawn it in. Let's go and try. Take off in a few seconds. Remember, once again, we're controlling this using a mouse input. If you guys missed the last video, I definitely recommend you check it out. We managed to get this mouse control very well and very nicely done. Once we have that, let's go and maybe roll to the left. Now I can obviously fly like this, and it's always going to hold this. However, if I press on 3, we should go and stabilize ourselves. And there you go. See how nicely I'm stabilized? Obviously, I can still go and roll it if I want to, but as soon as I let go, it stabilizes itself again. Okay, so this is a really cool little feature. I like it. Once again, it's up to you on how you want to do it. Okay, completely up to you on how you want to control that. Now, the cool thing is that if we bring that back into the workbench, we can use exactly the same thing for our pitch. Exactly the same thing. So to do that, you can jump back into the workbench, and you can actually just simply go and copy this exact same controller. And the only difference is now we're going to go and add a tilt sensor facing forwards, and we're going to get that connected up. So that's going to go into our tilt. We're going to add a roll in, which is actually going to be our pitch in, which is going to come from this controller here. Our pitch out will go out to there, 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 and there. And we can turn it on by using maybe hotkey number 4 on our keyboard. So we can go over there, go to 4, and do, let's say, pitch stable. And that's pretty much about it. You don't need to change any of the other settings. Just go spawn in. We might need to invert it, but we can always test that out in a few seconds. Let's go up, turn it on, close this in. Now, one thing that you probably are going to find is that if you are using a mouse to control this, you'll notice in a few seconds here that we're always going to have an input on it, which is not really going to work that great. So for example, if I do roll stabilization on 3, then I do pitch stabilization 4, it does help, but not that much, because we still can control it using my mouse. Okay, it's just a little bit more less sensitive, should I say. Okay, but it still is stabilized. Now if you want to, you could actually disable this. So let's say if I go and put this in here and I press on 2 for free look, you can see how it's stabilized it completely. I don't need to touch anything, I don't need to adjust anything. This is now completely stabilized, which is almost perfect. We're going to hit that mountain, so I'm going to take it off. And let's fly up and press 2. Okay, so guys, this is how you can do the stabilization for your plane or helicopter, just using some tilt sensors. Very, very simple. Okay, now the next thing that I would like to add on is possibly an alt hold sensor and also my full navigation system. So let's go and start by adding on the full navigation system. So to do that, I've got a pre-built controller. You guys can literally just go and download it from the workshop. Once we've got it, we can paste it in, make sure you join it on, and then any controls that you want inside the cockpit, you can go ahead and move that now. And now we just need to connect all of this up. So you'll notice that this actually has one input, which is your seat. So you can go directly from your seat over into this waypoint system. And then it has 2 outputs, roll and steering. Yeah, that's the 2 ones we have here. Now, roll, I know I can go and look at my roll. I've got it from my roll. Currently, it's coming from my seat into this controller and then going out. This is the whole stabilization system, if you remember correctly. So what we want to do is we want to just, instead of going from my seat, we want to now go from our new system, which is our roll over here, into that. The same thing goes with our mouse steering for the yaw. That goes into this system, remember, that we have here. So remember, that's the yaw, goes from there into this, and then goes out over to these 2 things over there. I don't know why it's disconnected, but it is. Okay, and what's happening here is it's actually timesing about 4 to control that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an add block. Put it in here, and I'm going to say, I could also use a switch box, to be honest. Actually, yeah, let's use a switch box. Add a switch box, and we're going to say, hey, listen, if our autopilot system is turned on, then we're going to go and take our steering from here onto on, and that's going to go over to my steering 1 and 2. If it's off, it's going to get the steering from here, and it's going to go over there. Now, you'll notice that we actually don't have a on and off here, it's all controlled using that composite value. Okay, it's used using that composite value. So if you wanted to, you could go onto this controller and you could add something in. So you can see I've got some space, extra space here. So let's just simply go in and let's add a node outputs, and that's going to be on. Go back in, here it is over here. Just connect that over to the composite, and we have the composite coming in. Let's go and have a look. There it is over there. That's the composite coming in. It gets turned on, and that goes and turns the system on. Update it in, and now you can go and grab that and add it onto our switch box. Yeah, very simple little way of using this little switch box over here. Once again, if you wanted to, you could do it different ways. Once we've got that, I want to make sure I've got some electricity on everything, which I do. And let's go and spawn in and see if the navigation waypoint system is actually going to work for the first time. Let's get our roll stabilization on. Let's get our pitch stabilization on too. There we go. That is all now on. Let's get my free look mode, which is 2. Now I can do what I need to. And now I've already entered my waypoint in. If I click on, it should fly me in that general direction. Let's click on. Okay, we did lose quite a bit of altitude there, and we're about to probably hit some buildings and things. Okay, so it is working. The problem is that this system doesn't work that well if you don't have an altitude hold system. So that's the next thing we're going to be adding in to our build. So how do we go and add an altitude hold system in? Well, it actually works very simply. All you're going to need is an alt sensor. We're then going to need another microcontroller. So let's go and grab a blank one. Add it in, and we're going to increase the size. Let's go and increase the size here. Let's do 2 by 2, for example. Go into your logic, add 4 nodes. One is going to be for on off. The next one is going to be for our alt in, and that's going to be a number in. And then lastly, we want our pitch in and pitch out. So let's go pitch in, pitch out. Let's go pitch in and pitch out. Cool. Let's do that and then separate it out again, go into your logic, and we start again. So we have got our pitch in going to our pitch out, so straight pass through system. We then have our alt in and our on off. Now you can create a system that will hold a certain alt, or you can tell it to hold your current alt. If you want to do current alt, which I'm going to do, I'm going to use a memory register to do that. Just like how we did our free look mode in the last episode. We're going to do that. So we're going to say, hey, listen, if you press, let's say 5 for alt hold, it sets it and it will store this value. The problem is that because this is a toggle, it will keep on storing it. So you want to do a toggle to push button. And there we go. Grab it, stick it in over there. That means it sets it once and that's it. Once you've got that on, we're then going to get a PID. The PID, once again, will be able to allow us to get a set point and compare it to what we currently are at the moment. We can turn that PID on using this on off for our alt hold system. We're then going to go and take that. We're going to make it into a negative number. Okay, so we're going to use a function block for that, like we always do, just like so. And then we're going to go and use a switch box to go and add it onto our current pitch, which is over here. That's going to be the off. This is going to be the on. And it's going to be turned on using our alt hold system. Now, you need to go here and make negative X. And there's a couple other things you could do. I mean, for the very basics, if you want to, let's just put like a very basic number here. Let's use like 0.05. Leave everything else as 0. You can also add a clamp on. So if you don't want it to go up and down so quickly, or if you wanted to stop doing barrel rolls, you can add a clamp on. Now we could add a clamp inside the function block. For the purpose of this video and keeping it quite simple, I'm just going to use this clamp block. As I said, we could have simply typed in clamp here, but let's just do it here so you guys can follow. And we'll clamp this, and let's say the minimum value is 0.5 and maximum is 0.5. We could make this 0.2, 0.3, it's up to us. We're clamping how much that control surface can move when we have the alt system on. Update this in, connect the logic. So to connect the logic, we're going to once again from our alt sensor into alt, we're going to go pitch in, pitch out, and on off. On off, let's use number 5, which is going to be our alt hold. There we go, alt hold. We're then going to do our whole pitch system. So that's going from our stabilization system here. The roll in, let's roll, what's actually pitch, is coming from here. We're going to go pitch in, pitch out is then going to go into there. Cool. So it goes through the whole stabilization system. That's it. Just like that. Make sure you don't need electricity on anything, which you don't. Update it in. Now we should have an alt-hold system. You can tweak that PID if it's not reacting quick enough or it's reacting too slow. Once again, it's up to you. Let's go and test the alt-hold system now. Then we'll test out the navigation waypoint system after that. Take off here in a few seconds. Let's get my roll and pitch stabilization, 3 and 4. And let's go and hold my current altitude, which is 5. And you can see it's holding my current altitude, which is perfect. It is a little bit slow. You can see how it's bouncing up and down like that. That's not great. But let's put like free cam mode on and let's just test my waypoint system into the in. And let's put that on. Okay. So you can see it is working, not perfectly, obviously. We can definitely do some adjustments with my alt-hold system and also the sensitivity of the waypoint system. But it definitely is working. You can see that's way too sensitive. That alt-hold, I don't like that at all. So we're going to go back into the workbench, jump in here, and let's go and tweak some things. So first thing is the sensitivity of my waypoint system. So you can see the steering multiplier is currently on 1. You can adjust that if you need to. As I said, you can make it better or slower, or you could clamp it. Yeah, so you can grab a simple clamp block and you could clamp that value. So I can come in here, 1 and 2, and I can clamp both my roll and my stabilization. So you can do negative 0.2 and let's say 0.2. Do the same thing on that. So negative 0.2 and 0.2. And we're just going to go from our system here. So that's a roll into here. And then vice versa. It's just going to pass through there. Steering the same. So it's going to go in here and then go out there. Okay, so we've clamped it. Just clamped our steering and our roll. The next thing is the alt-hold system. So the alt-hold system was a little bit too slow in reacting. Once again, you can go and clamp this a little bit more. So you can do like 0.3 and 0.3. And then we can come here and maybe decrease this down to like 0.05. Spawn in again, update it in. Let's go and test that whole system and see how that's going to work. Jump in the seat, turn engines on, increase throttle, close the canopy off, done. Let's take off. We'll get our stabilization and our pitch stabilization on at the same time once we've taken off here. We go. Nice. Let's get all our stabilizations on. So that's 3 and 4. Let's get our alt-hold on, which is 5. See, that look at that. Look how much better that is. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Now we are quite low, so I'm going to take that off, which is 5. Let's go and increase my altitude here. Okay, increase alt, increase alt, increase alt. Let's turn my alt-hold on now, which is 5. Sets it again. Let's go into free look mode, which is 2. And now let's go and set my waypoint. So I can go and enter that in. Go and activate it. There we go. Showing to the left a little bit, but it's clamped. See how clamped it is? And see how it's now going and rotating nicely around like that. Look at that. Nice. Leveling out itself. Look at that. See how it's leveling out? Once it's getting a little bit closer. Beautiful. Not perfectly in line, but it's still turning. You can see it's still turning a bit. We should end up being perfectly in line with that waypoint. Now, of course, because we've used my navigation waypoint, you can hold up to, I think, like 16 waypoints. So you can keep on setting more and more waypoints for you to go and do like a little patrol on. Once again, it's up to you. So guys, I think that is going to be a great place to end this part off with. I've showed you guys how to add stabilization systems being completely custom. I've showed you guys how to add an alt-hold system. And lastly, I've also showed you guys how to add a full navigation waypoint autopilot into your plane. Those are some very big technical logic pieces that really do make planes stand out from the rest. Okay, and it's very useful to have those features on, especially if you're doing long distance flying or if you're just trying to land or so on. It's very useful to have these things on. So guys, hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you have, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, let me know in the comments what you would like to see in the next episode, and until then, We'll see you soon.